And this is clearly damage control. They're like, well, the fans have been talking about Mephisto all this time. I guess they want Mephisto. Here he is. To the disdain of some, JesterBell has come back to review another episode of Agatha. Seriously, though, I gave the first 2 episodes of Agatha a really, really harsh review, and I did not like those first 2 episodes. But it's interesting to see that there has been a very widespread reaction, like very different reaction to the show. Some people hate it as much as I did. Some people love the show. Some people think, well, it's not that bad. So that was very interesting to see. But I did get a lot of hate from Wanda stans, presumably for my criticisms of this show. So I was going back and forth. Do I want to continue with this? Do I want to not? So I thought I'll give it at least one more episode. And look, I've been saying on this channel this whole time that I believe the MCU can get better and that it will get better. It's just a matter of time when. So I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I need to look at the show more charitably. Maybe I need to really give it a chance, more of a chance than I did on the first time around. So while I still really did not like those first 2 episodes, I started the third one. And I'm happy to say the show did improve from my initial criticisms. My criticisms of the first 2 episodes were it was very dour, it was very slow, and there wasn't really any character development. And all of those things are addressed in this episode. The first thing that they addressed, and what I noticed when I clicked on the episode, is it's a much shorter episode. The other ones were well over 40 minutes. This one was only 38 minutes, and that's that's counting the credits, so it was probably more like 30 to 34 minutes or something like that. But anyway, it was a much shorter episode, and so the pacing problem was gone. I didn't feel like I was just watching the show forever and that it wouldn't get anywhere. It was a complete episode. And this is an episode that is focused on developing the characters, and it just basically plants the seeds of developing them. Stuff that I wish we got in the first episodes, as I felt that we were really just wallowing in these unlikable characters, and I'm like, why should I care about their journey? This one, but I think the big thing that made this episode an improvement over the first 2 is Agatha is not the protagonist, and that was my big problem. I'm like, what? This is a dour show overall, and we're focusing on somebody who's just very, very hateable and who hasn't given me any reason to not hate her and to root for her journey at all. But this episode focuses on the new characters that we've been introduced to more and tries to give them some development. So on all fronts, we did get improvements from the criticisms that I had. It was much better paced. We had some characters that seemed a bit more sympathetic with the backstories that we were given. And the tone also, I will mention the tone was much more consistent. It is still mixing campiness with darkness, but it did so in a much better way. The first 2 episodes, it was just darkness and just dourness, and then a little silly moment. And this one transitioned from the first half being very silly and campy and the second half being more like a horror. So those things were well done. However, is it a perfect show still? No. And mind you, this far more charitable review is me. I was desperately trying to look at the show. I'm like, okay, it's not a Marvel show. I have to look at this show through the lens that it is not a Marvel show, and that's what I tried to do. I still think that if you are a Marvel fan and that's what you're into, then there's not much in this show for you. Not tonally, not with the characters. It is not really a Marvel show at all. Once again, I was saying this about The Penguin. The Penguin was probably just a crime drama that they wanted, that they used the Batman IP to get greenlit. Agatha, probably a show based on witches that they used the Marvel IP to get greenlit, because that's how it works in Hollywood these days. They want everything to be attached to an IP, and that's why we get these shows that seem to be clashing with franchises. So that's why I'm like, going into this, you can't look at it as a Marvel show. So it was definitely a big improvement over the first episodes objectively, but it's still not a Marvel show. I still don't think it's going to win people over in any way. And while the seeds are planted to get some more dimension to these new characters and any development at all, I still didn't find there's no character that I'm really invested in that I really like yet, because we've only gotten little seeds planted that there might be more of it. And I like, I'm once again saying these are things that I wish were planted in the pilot. Like, I feel like this episode, and it's really about an escape room and having to go through a challenge to escape. I feel like this is in the groove of what the show wants to be, and we didn't get any of that in the first two episodes. We spent way too much time on that Mayor of Easttown parody that they were doing at the beginning, and that just was really not good for a tone setter. Now, Agatha works better in this episode as she is more of a supporting character rather than the main character. It would still help if the motivations were better set up in the beginning, because first Agatha is kind of the one being pushed on to go on this journey, and then these ladies are just coerced into it, and now they're the ones who are kind of pushing forward, and Agatha is kind of holding back. I wish that they had stronger motivations going into this so that we could feel that all of the challenges that they're going through are going to have a payoff in the end. The only thing that I have any sort of investment in is Billy, but I'm a little bit concerned about where that's going to go. And he wasn't in this episode very much, but they have been dropping little tidbits about his identity. And in this episode, this is another good thing. We finally get some development on Agatha herself, that she essentially gave up her child for the Darkhold, and it's revealed as her greatest fear. Perhaps that is something that she really regrets. That is her deepest regret. And we get a little bit of protectiveness from her towards Billy, and the idea is that she at the very least associates him with her son that she lost. I really, really hope they do not retcon it to make Wiccan Agatha's actual son and not Scarlet Witch, but he did have some mentions of his parents in this episode that makes me think that that's not the case, but I'm still not sure, and I would be really upset if they retcon Wiccan to be Agatha's son. But once again, we got development on the characters, we got a tone that was more consistent and more well-paced, and the characters weren't so hateable in this episode, so those were improvements. It's still a show that I don't think Marvel fans are gonna like, but it did improve. But there was something in this episode that absolutely broke my heart. Well, two things, actually. Now, the first thing has to do with the name drop of a certain character, and the second thing has to do with a different character in the show. Now, to set that up, um, how do I begin with this? Because, okay, going all the way back to WandaVision, and the people who have been following me since the beginning will know that I was so obsessed with WandaVision and so excited for it. Probably my disappointment for that, it was the beginning of the downfall of the MCU for me. But through that entire series, everyone was like, it's going to be Mephisto. Mephisto is behind this. He's going to be the big reveal. That was a huge thing. Only to have it at the end, it's not Mephisto, and Jack Schaefer said she didn't even know who Mephisto was. For Doctor Strange, too, it was always, it's going to be Mephisto. He's behind all of it, and he wasn't. They had no plans to do Mephisto. So Mephisto's like popped up as a villain so much in speculation over all of this Scarlet Witch, WandaVision related stuff, and it was rather embarrassing to be a fan and to be all into these theories and have your own theories about Mephisto this, Mephisto that constantly, and find out that there were no plans from it, and the people behind the scenes had no idea who Mephisto was. And then in this episode, one of the witches name drops Mephisto, and that somebody might be an agent of Mephisto. And as I am trying to give this show another chance, as I am trying to see the positives in it, my soul left my body when she said that. My heart was broken. Like, I don't know if I can explain the context enough how embarrassing it was to theorize about Mephisto all this time. And this is clearly damage control. They're like, well, the fans have been talking about Mephisto all this time. I guess they want Mephisto. Here he is. And we never get him in a WandaVision project or Doctor Strange. We get him name dropped in an Agatha show. Oh, I could have cried when I heard that. It was oh my goodness. Look, I guess this is them trying to appreciate the fans, and after years of ignoring them, trying to get back on track of that, like I'm saying, but oh, it's too little too late. It's just so embarrassing. There is so much baggage carried on with Mephisto, and it was just oh, I guess that has to do with the meta, though. But once again, overall thought that the episode was an improvement over the first two. Like, I would never watch the first two episodes again. Would I rewatch this episode? I'll just say I wouldn't. I'm not enticed enough to watch it again. If I had to watch it again, then I would, and I wouldn't mind it like the first two, but it's still not something that I really want to go back to. Even though I see that it's improving and it is doing some things more interestingly. We are getting some development on Agatha that might go somewhere. Disney Plus, I want them to prove themselves, though I don't want them to drop the ball like they did in WandaVision. But then the ending kind of made it fall through for me just a little bit, because there's been this character and I haven't understood why she was there. And she's Mrs. Hart from WandaVision, but she's Mrs. Davis in the real life of the show. And I've been confused about why they're using her in this way, because she's even more of a campy, ridiculous, airheaded, stupid character than she was in the WandaVision reality. And I'm like, that's not who she appeared to be when she broke from Wanda's spell. She goes along, not just like an airhead, not understanding with Agatha's plan just because they need a normal person. Then she tries to call the police to kidnap, that they've kidnapped her after she's been with them for a while. Then she goes along with what they're doing. And then, spoilers for the rest of this review, she's just sort of this, this character who has nothing to do with anything, who they're making all these jokes with, and only one of the jokes landed for me. And then by the end of the show, after going through the trial, they announce she's dead. And I'm like, is she dead? Because, I mean, this is a crazy show with magic, so I suppose she could come back to life or come back later. But if she's actually dead, I'm like, was she just dead weight all along? Was she just a character that they needed to bring up to kill just for the stakes? And once again, this is one of those things, like similar with Wiccan's backstory, where I need more context to see where it goes before I make a judgment on it. I'm just saying, for my reaction to the episode, that made me think, okay, that ending made me feel a little bit dropped off a cliff. It was not a good ending to me. It just made me think, if you're actually killing off this character, then I don't like where the show is going. If you just turned her into some dead weight to be killed off. And so that killed the momentum a little bit for me, but it was overall an improved episode. That Mephisto name drop, though, that just got to me. I just can't believe that all this wasted potential for so long, they're finally getting to him. And I still don't know if they're going to be able to fix all the Scarlet Witch WandaVision stuff, but we will see. But definitely an improved episode from the first two, but this was a wildly different episode tonally and in terms of what it does than the first two. So who knows how the rest of the episodes could go, if there will be better or worse. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching my review and hearing my thoughts. Are you watching Agatha, or are you just avoiding it as a Marvel fan until other stuff comes out? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you, patrons, as always, for supporting me. If you want to support this channel, you can check out the link to Patreon in the description, and I will see you guys next time.